we have lien authority. So the lien stays, even though we release them from the tax sale. But if the property owner isn't able to pay, the fees to make them current, so to speak, or pay them off, then the committee reviews their case, the Board of Equalization, I believe, through the county, and then they grant the permission to have their property released from the tax sale that happens after 5 years of delinquency. I hope I made sense of all that, but this is a regular annual request from them.
So in other words, we're not waiving our lien.
Correct.
We are simply agreeing that it can move forward, and we can recoup everything that is owed us ultimately.
Yes.
Okay.
I think people requested like payment plans or something, right?
If the owner can work out
they
work out something with the Board of Adjustment to catch up or pay their fees, then the county will sell it.
Right.
Correct.
Right. Any other questions or comments about this? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the letter.
We approve the letter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, it is approved. We'll move to item 2, which is public comments. We are now opening the hearing for public comments. Katerina, any comments you're aware of?
No public comments.
I don't, anyone here present to make public comments? All right, appearing there's no public comment, we'll close public comments. Now move on to item 3. This could be the shortest meeting. We could maybe all meet for breakfast. Item 3, business items. 3.1, review the new WFWRD website and scrap scheduling and a brief look at the new management information system. So we'll have Renee Plant, our amazing administrative manager, head off on this with comments, I'm sure, from Pam. So Renee.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for giving me time to give you a tour. Us musicians love that word, right? Tour. So that's why it's here. That is the website. So wanted to just give a high-level review of where we ended up when we did our launch last July. We were mid-scrap season at that point, so we were going in fixing errors, just really getting it up and running for this year. And so far this year, it's been really, really smooth. And so we're really quite proud of it. We had 3 different high-level goals when we went through to design and figure out the website. One was we wanted to make it as aesthetically pleasing as we could for our customers. So, it looked professional. I mean, that was our #1 goal. And then we also wanted our customers to be able to find everything easily. And so we incorporated the search option up here. And so I've tried it so many times because there's so many different pages. I'm like, where was that again? And I do it and boom, I enter in a keyword and it finds it really easy. And then the third top goal was to reduce our inbound calls as much as possible, allowing for our customers to really self-service for all types of items, from broken cans to, seeing if we service them, to, change of ownership, et cetera. And so far, we've seen that pan out very well. So as you can see, it's kind of like from beginning of service to the right, from the left to right. First find out if we service the customer. So we can go in here, you can do an address search. It takes you right to our GIS, and it'll tell you, let's see, let me just enter this address, we'll see, as an example. Mill Creek. And there we go. And it actually tells like what service is offered on what day, and even like when their scrap season will be. That's one of the options there. Let's go back here. But I could go through every single page, and I'm not going to do that because I know that we're trying to make today's meeting kind of fast. So I'll try. I could talk about this for a long time, but I won't. One more thing to highlight on our homepage here is we did some analysis and saw from customer service and from the items that were requested, we narrowed it down to the top 3 items that customers requested. And we made sure that we made it easy to find right there, you know, service request, pay my bill, and recycling.
So you don't have to scroll to find all those, they're just on.
Right, they're just right there, so to help you get started. And then the other more popular items, you just scroll down a little bit, you'll see them right there, the seasonal continuing reservation program. Oh, let's not forget the little smiley face over here, they can chat with us at any point on any page, that chat option pops up. And we have customer service available for them all of our business days, you know. And then if it's after hours, we still get that, any requests or any chats that come through, we get those the following morning, and those are our number 1 priority that we get to. We get to those, we get to our emails first before we even open our phone lines. So those are priority then. Right underneath the scrap program, we wanted to remind everyone we have the voucher program. So right here, you know,
I have a question. That's just, you'll mail them one, right?
we can mail them one. Yes,
But
absolutely.
can they get it, like, a download to their phone?
We have not met with that.
You mean to have the
voucher?
vouchers when they go to the landfill?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked to the vendors at Salt Lake Valley and Trans-Jordan. They really wanna make sure that it is paper because they track the number on there. So far, they've not been able to make it more,
They, like,
Right,
right, yeah,
That would be really
so far,
convenient.
so far.
Eliminate postage on
Yeah.
our end, and then just something more, because that way you have to plan ahead. And if you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I just forgot to grab a voucher, and if you could just hurry and log on and get it, like,
Yeah.
that'd be nice.
We're more high-tech than the landfill.
We are.
No offense, Patrick Craig online. But now you have
We
your
need to work on
challenge.
that.
You've been challenged, sir.
Yeah, because that would be really
That would be
convenient.
really cool. It's worth asking again, right?
Yeah,
To make it where we
sure.
are.
It eliminates paper, eliminates postage, all that
Printing,
stuff.
yeah.
How many do we end up sending out?
Oh, I don't have that number memorized.
Via mail, I don't think
Not very
as many, but we do have them at the city halls, and that's
Right.
where they get
Library.
taken.
Yeah.
I've always just
seen them ready to go in different areas. Yeah.
As far as actually printing and mailing.
I always remember it on the weekend, night, and no one's ever opened, so I was like, oh, this is actually great.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Put it up again.
Yeah, we've got the names of
where to
where
pick
they're
them
all
up.
located here,
Yeah.
for, where they can go pick one out.
Quick comment.
Yeah.
Should that, at least for immigration, it should be, Metro Council, not Community Council.
Okay.
So I don't know if that applies to any other ones.
Thank you.
Metro Township Council.
Got it, Metro Township. Well, and thank you for the feedback, because a shout out to board member Duspan, who last, meeting, he had noticed that our QR code wasn't working as it should, and come to find out, there was a mishap in billing, but we got straightened out since then, and
Oh, nice.
so yeah, so like I told him, like, anytime you all find anything that you want corrected or changed, just, let me know, and, which leads me to one of my favorite pages. There we go, look at this. It's got, your all pictures.
Oh, no,
And, wow. And the contact information there, if anybody ever needs to get hold of it, and, board member Phil, I had to just like find one.
And that's fine. They're forcing me to get a headshot next week.
Okay, there you go, so you're in action, I think
That's got my head.
There you go, there you go. So, you know, and we have our budget and compliance information on here too.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, so, and then, last thing I'll review on the website here is, I figured I'd just go through and show you what our customers see when they're going.
Will you show the team page?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I wanted to make sure that people had our face to a name if they contact us.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
So, yeah, there's their email, phone number, and then if they do call or, email us, they know what we look like. I think putting a face to a name is really important. It helps personalize
It does.
and hopefully calm folks down a little bit.
How much did the update cost?
The update, it was a complete redesign.
Okay.
It was, 93,000.
Okay.
Like $93. And that was before any additional items that we had to do. There was, thankfully, when we were in redesigning and creating the new page, we had discovered that, our payment system, Express Bill Pay, we were working on an old old system, old link, and so we actually paid, the website developer to work with Express Pay to make it more secure. And so that was a good discovery that we had come up with, and there's some other items that we had to do. Yeah.
So around 100,000.
I would say around 100,000, yeah. And, so we got each line item detailed, with additional security updates and some other things at the end. 109 for total. Yeah, for
the security,
Mhm.
security piece, we had to pay a little extra, but it's very well worth it.
Yeah.
It was nice that they figured that out and took care of it. And they're the experts, so
Yeah, exactly.
that's why we hire them.
Have you noticed it really reducing the call volume then?
Initially, yes, and I can, look, I've got, reporting here. This is to brag about Jorge, our data, specialist back there that we hired, late November. You know, he's actually gone through the first phase and we've completed, you know, updating thousands of lines of data. And we're now in refining process to where we're going to each of the program managers and saying, okay, here's all the data that we have, and one of those pieces of data is to show you call volume. In that call, we launched in beginning of July last year, end of July, sorry. And so the first few weeks, you know, when you have a new website, you get a little more calls. That's just natural.
Yeah.
As you can see here, we've seen a steady decline. In February and March, we've seen a slight increase, and I asked Yale about that the other day, and I wrote down the reason, and I can't remember off the top of my head. There was a warranted reason for the increase in the February and March, that didn't coincide with what I was seeing in behavior where, you know, the inbound calls had decreased, so. That was a perfect segue into our MIS page right there. So yeah, so we'll go in here and run through what the customers see. So when they get their postcard in the mail, they generally, and what we found through our Google Analytics is that our customers generally go right to our webpage. Google is second option on how they find our webpage, but they usually just type it right in, frontways.org, and they're right there. So that's our natural way that they find us. And then they come here. Some of them scroll down and click on this, but seasonal containers right there. So this is very important because we tell our customers, you know, please read these directions first, just to where they're not confused and, you know, they get through this. So first thing that they have to do is they have to go down here and choose their area. And Yale opened this up for me quickly this morning because we know we have to pull it down because what we've noticed is our reservations go fast. An entire area has been filling up within 30, 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I feel like we're like Taylor Swift and Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh my gosh, it's really fast. And so I just sort of pull it up here quickly so I can show you all, and then we'll take it down. So May 25th to June 5th, we'll do that. I go over to my area date. She only opens 2 containers that day, so I'm going to choose that day, and it autofills here. Put my name in there. Now, this is the important part, is that I think a lot of our customers get a little impatient, so as they're entering their address, they're not letting it autofill. And so we ask them to wait for it to autofill. Selfie time.
Start to the last.
Start to last. Did you find it? Yeah. All right. I want it on my driveway. Okay. I agree, here's our disclosures. There we go. Submit. There you go. We will contact you within 7 business days to confirm. And just so then they then know, they get an automated confirmation that they've got a reservation. And what then Tione does is he goes in and confirms that who submitted the reservation request is actual homeowner, because that's what we have to do. We can't allow renters to reserve that. So that's one more piece of verification that we go through and do, and then he sends them a final confirmation email that they get, and then that's for sure they're on the list for that. Okay?
Great.
So that's the website. Any questions, comments? Did you guys see any updates?
Yeah, I've got a comment that is a bonus. Depending on the day, and if there's a snowstorm, there is a ribbon across the top that gives you updates, live updates of what the plan is for the day. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
Absolutely. Neil, our customer service manager, she is all over that, you know, as we're doing our calling tree, figuring out operationally what we're gonna be doing. She goes in right away, you know, and makes sure that we update our customers for its front of the website. Yeah, so in addition to Facebook and Instagram, you know, we make sure that if they go to our website to see what's going on, it's right there. It's a warning message on top.
So I've made that known to community members of the canyon. So on the day of, if it's snowing and they decide not to go, it's there and it's crowds. We're not coming up Saturday either, we'll come up Monday. So put the cans back in so the snow plows can do their job. So that ribbon's really helpful.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments for Renee?
Good job.
Yeah, you know what, this is excellent. I've already made a note for, staff and Marie to review this and look at it, because our website sucks. We're just starting budget review this week, and I would love to try and find some money to get started, so we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. If they need any help, let me know.
Thank you very much.
This was a very learning
It's very
process.
impressive.
Yeah, so it is, you know, doing wireframes and all this.
Yeah, you know, just a comment, it's pretty impressive how, we're not 100% cutting edge, but we are very far ahead of the curve, I believe. When you look at what we're doing with analytics, with GPS, experimenting with, you know, different sources of power for our vehicles, I'm just very, very impressed, and this website is just phenomenal. And we are so grateful to you, Renee, for all of your great work. What a great addition you are to the staff. You're amazing.
Thank you. I had a blast. That was fun every day.
And then that was one of the many projects that you, just took it on and ran with it. We did an RFP, and it was one of those, we're gonna learn as we go, and you've done very well.
Thank you.
All right, item 3.2, which is the sole possible speed bump in our request.
Pressure's on.
Mr. Chair,
Oh,
would
yeah.
it be okay if Renee shows more of the MIS?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No, it's okay.
Oh, no,
No,
go ahead,
don't worry. The final thing I'm gonna show is, you know, Ken and I had talked about, you know, the importance of reporting and analytics in, you know, even in our trash collections. And so that's where we were able to, thank you, board, for approving, Jorge's position. And I gotta tell you, Jorge has been a godsend. I mean, his talent and how much, you know, skill he's brought has been amazing. And so when he came in end of November, beginning of December, I was like, okay, get to work. And sure enough, he did. And, so like I said, phase one is done, and we've got, tons of information and data in there. Let me back up just really quick. The goals for our MIS portal was to have a centralized spot where everyone can go within the organization to find the report and the numbers that they need. And so, because we had so many different, we have a lot of data. And so, and we wanted to automate stuff as much as possible to get operations out and coaching and managing, people, not worrying so much about reports. And Jorge's worked on getting a lot of stuff automated as much as possible. Still not all there. It's going to be a work in progress. And then also meet as a team and come up with some agreed upon dashboards to look at important information and just to where we can agree upon the numbers. And then eventually here we're going to get to a certification process to where, you know, once a month has passed and kind of have time to review and everyone's, you know, agreed, certify it. And that's it. The number doesn't change 6 months later. You know, so that's, I know, something Paul and I are very passionate about, you know, getting the certification process in there to make sure, you know, numbers don't change. So phase one is done. Phase two is in process, which, like I said, is that refining, where we're meeting with all the program managers, because we're trying to come up with common verbiage, common views, to where, you know, when you go from piece of information to piece of information, it's consistent. It's not different everywhere you go. And so we're in that process right now. And then our next phase, which I imagine we'll be getting to probably middle of summer, is something we're going to be creating, which is really exciting. It makes me excited. It's a driver and equipment operator performance dashboard, to where essentially they're going to have, you know, 2 to 3 KPIs that they'll be able to view, that will be able to get them, you know, as live as possible information, for example, you know, the KPIs we're thinking about, mileage and maintenance, load management, and safety. So, just keeping it really simple. We don't wanna, you know, over inundate them with data, but keeping it down to 3 metrics. So that'll be coming up here in the summer. So this, shows the little SharePoint that I designed in December, just where we can go in here and see what's going on. And then our MIS portals up here, and these buttons at the top here are the primary reports that we've worked on so far. One of the ones I'll show you here is our tonnage report. This shows, you know, tons that have come in so far for the year, and the amount of that. I'll just kind of breeze through here really quickly, and then each vendor, Trans-Jordan.
Can you back up?
I sure can.
Where it says sum of amount, what is that number?
Which one?
806,000?
So this was, this is the amount of, I'd ask Jorge, sum of amount, the processing fees.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an average of all facilities. So there's one on the right that says Salt Lake Valley office.
Oh.
So that's an average of all of the facilities. If she goes to the transfer station, then you'll see it's $35 a ton.
Nice, you can highlight
And
and
landfill,
separate, yeah.
29
Very
average.
nice.
Yeah, and then you can also change the date.
Yeah.
So again, and, you know, we're finding some of that, you know, to Pam's point, you know, the first page that we pull up, it's actually all inclusive. So we need to change that verbiage up there. Again, this is really early on, so we're
Wonderful. It's a great tool.
Yeah, my only comment on that was some of the amount, and when you're looking at that sheet, I'm looking pounds, tons, not dollars.
Yeah.
So,
Summary, yeah.
but, yeah, so maybe you want, I don't know if you would have re-tagged that dollar amount to represent that it's a cost.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep,
rather
no,
than-
for sure.
Cause I was, why is there?
Right. Yeah, so that's a perfect example, whereas we're, you know, meeting with each of the program managers and Pam, and we'll go through, and so I'll make a note of that, versus.
But you were good, slightly a little fast.
Yeah, well,
No, which is fine. I just was like,
Yeah.
why is there a dollar sign in front
Yep,
of that?
no, and, yeah, no, for sure. And so that's one of the reports that you can go through, and then, like I briefly showed earlier, customer service, there's some different reporting, you know, where we can look at, you know, service orders that are created by month, inbound calls, outbound calls, emails by month, chat tickets, chat logs, and then the total damage. So that's just kind of a high level, more to come.
And there is a tab in there for number of vouchers that get used, year to date each month, and then by area. And there's also the green waste, which we don't talk a lot about, but for us internally, we want to keep track of what's going on with green, what's going on with recycling, and load management. Renee mentioned that, but that's all about efficiency. So this is internal use, and then the goal is that it comes forward in the quarterly reports and hopefully helps ease Paul's workload. And there's my favorite right there.
Nice.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. We'll let you know what the green count is as soon as it comes down with the Kings.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, this is pretty impressive, and, this is a fantastic tool for the staff. I mean,
Yes.
for you all to stay connected, and the individual dashboards are, I'm sure, just daily use for you, your various functions, for you and the staff. As a board, this is also a really helpful tool because it coalesces and summarizes a lot of big data that otherwise, I'm not sure any of us have the time or maybe even the ability to dive in and look at the numbers. Speaking for myself, I am actually very happy to have this sort of data come in a quarterly report or in manager reports. I'm just wondering if there are any other board members who have a special interest in data, if they would like to dive into that. Is there a way that they could access this? I don't really want to see this on a daily basis.
Yeah, no.
But, and maybe the other board members feel the same, we're gonna see this in a summary fashion periodically. But I'm just wondering if there are any board members that want to, could they come into the office and?
Sure. And just reach out to me, be happy to set up a time to have you come in, and we can navigate through it, you can ask all kinds of questions. Happy to do that, so yeah, just reach out to me anytime.
You're not gonna give us water.
Well, it's hard to get you one outside,
Not for you,
so yeah.
not for you.
Plus, we have to pay for it, so no.
Oh, but that's a great
As a
invitation.
user, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, this just creates such a level of efficiency that's beyond anything else.
That's the vision.
Yeah.
Well, and we're excited too, because, Jorge and I talked about looking at some algorithms and using, traffic studies to find out, where, the most difficult routes are happening, stoplights, traffic. So we've got a lot of fun things planned.
How many left-hand turns they have to make.
Yes, essentially, those are important. Those are small little variables that impact how long it takes to do a route versus just
Setting idling, money and time and everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah, very impressive.
Job well done.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments on the MIS, portal piece of this?
I think it's a lot like a budget, you get high-level numbers, and if you really want to dive in, there's, you can come in and say, show me what you got there.
Yeah.
I appreciate that invitation. Concerns about it.
Yeah.
And then as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, that, quarterly, we would like to do not just the financial, but performance measures. Here's the money, how are we spending that, what is our efficiency, what are we accomplishing? That would be where we want to be in July, to send that out to you as well.
Just one question, probably for Renee. Is there any, have you given some thought to AI, as far as maybe the chat?
ChatGPT?
Yeah, like the questions that might come in fact, even after hours or something, is there any way that we could in the future incorporate that? Or do we, have you given that some thought?
I have not. But that's for, chat, GPT, AI is definitely top of mind. I'm in, master's class right now, and, our instructors are freaking out. So rightfully so. So yes, so I know about it. I haven't used it, but definitely worth looking into. So why not?
Obviously not now, but maybe.
To answer questions, I get what you're saying, yeah. If someone has a question on chat, afterwards, what kind of AI do we look at?
Right.
Or just take them to a frequently asked question,
Which we have.
which you already have,
Yeah.
and if it could just, that might eliminate some of the come in the morning and answering it.
That's true. Yeah, actually, our FAQ is right here.
But we don't want it so high level that it eliminates all of our role. We don't want an AI board.
No.
I might sound a lot better. I'd be a lot smarter.
Well, thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Okay, now, so now, Paul, first quarter financial accomplishments, you take questions.
Okay.
We have time to.
I'll usually move. It's a two-way street. Anyway, well, good morning, everyone. This is the first quarter of 2023, so, and just for, some of the newer members, but the first quarter is really, it's less as far as tonnages, as far as work we do. And so when we look at this and we see some of our costs, you can't really take the first quarter and times it by 4. And we have seasonality, and we definitely incur more expenses during the summer and into the fall than we do the first quarter. So we'll talk about some of the specific ones. But here, when we look at the other big thing too, and we'll see this, and I sound like a broken record, but we're seeing increasing costs. That's pretty standard for us, and I think pretty much everyone right now. When we look at revenues, they increased $946,000 from last year. It was primarily due to a $710,000 increase in residential waste collection fees. A big portion of that was the fee increase. A $98,000 positive change in gain loss on investments, and a $97,000 increase in interest income. And so When we go down through here, we anticipated that increase in fees. That was, the fee increase took effect January 1st, and so we see that this is the first quarter. A couple things. One item that looks like good news is our interest income is up significantly. I went back and looked at that. When I budgeted and what I did, I used 2% at $6.5 million, and that gets us $130,000. Last year, PTIF, we were getting under 0.5% on our investments. Recently, we're getting almost 5% on PTIF, which is a pretty safe, state-approved investment. And so you start going, 3%, and we're up around $9-10 million over a year or over months. It gets to be pretty significant. So costs are going up in a lot of areas. The good news is interest income looks like it's going to be up too, and so that's one plus there.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, just a moment to give a shout out to Paul and Matt for good money management, because when we have cash sitting in Zion, and the interest rate is higher in PTIF, they've been transferring that money over to earn that high dollar, so thank you very much.
We've watched it in the past, but a lot of the time the interest rate was like at 10 to 1%, and you're like, and it was just not very good, and we've really tried to be more aware of that, and that's helped out where we're watching it. And because we looked at it, even if we move $1 million for 6 weeks at 5%, it's $3,000 or $4,000.
That's really fast.
Yeah. And PTIF designed the rules with them, both allow us to
Thank you, yes.
both of them allow us to do that, so.
The new home can delivery, it's not a large chunk of money, but it's interesting that it's already almost half of the budget. Is that the price of cans gone up more than we thought, or we just got a lot more orders than we thought?
This is revenue, so this would be any customers and orders that we've gotten, and
Correct. New bills usually. Yeah. So it's $70 per can, so a new home, startup fee is $140. Any new can, whether it's a second can, recycled, blue, black or green, then it's $70.
Like from just getting hit from the snow plow.
that's fun. All those cans that you go flying in. Any questions on revenues? You can go on to the next one. The next category really of expenses here is personnel expenses. They increased $207,000 from last year from the same quarter time period. In total, increased wages and salaries of $160,000. That was primarily due to hourly pay rate increases, and also increased employee headcount and increased retirement pension expense of $34,000. So when wages and salaries go up, a lot of the dependent expenses go up too. So the retirement, you'd expect that to go up. We did have a wage adjustment last year in May 2022, and then we had a wage adjustment. It wasn't necessarily the same positions we had when that started this year too on that wage study. And so we anticipated this. When we look at the total personnel expenses right now, we're 20% of budget, but again, you can't really read too much into that as far as the year goes. We're just starting, we started scrap, and so you'll see there's no wages in temporary labor, and that will pick up. We'll start recording those the first part of April. So, any questions on personnel? Okay, we'll move on. Operating expenses decreased $6,000 in 2023 compared to 2022. There were decreases in can purchases of $176,000, other expenses of $61,000, property insurance of $45,000, depreciation expense of $46,000, and then those decreases were partly offset by increased vendor recycling fees of $302,000. So, on a lot of these, for example, can purchases, that's just the timing. We just did not receive the cans this year. When we get towards the end of this year, we're going to have can purchases that will be up, similar to what we did last year, so around $500,000, I think. And then there's a couple other areas too, like for example, insurance. Our insurance has not decreased. I changed the way we record that expense on some of the big insurance amounts. I started doing it quarterly instead of last year we did it 6 months. And I wanna take a piece quarterly and do that and put it in there, and I think that'll be more accurate over time, but it kind of skews the comparison for this quarter. And so our operating expenses are actually down from last year. I don't think that's going to hold as we go through the year. And so we'll talk a little bit more about fuel and maintenance coming up here. A couple things that did decrease in the other category was the website. We talked about that, and we didn't have it, we had less website charges in the first quarter for that service. And then also just timing of when we pay the data center, which does a lot of printing for us. And that's not really a cost that will stay down, it's more just for the timing of when we had it done this year. So when we look at the bottom line number, total expenses, we're up about 200,000 there in total. And revenues less expenses, 610,000 this year versus a negative 134,000 last year. And then a lot of that, like I said, we had increased expenses last year too, but a big piece of that benefit is the increase. That's helpful. Any questions? Okay. So on fuel expense, you see the total over there on the left, that's the total fuel expense by quarter, the last 4 years, and that graph just keeps going up. So we'll see what happens, how far can it go. You know, eventually you think there'd be pressure on that, but the last 4 years, that's what it says, and I think that's really indicative of what we felt personally too. As far as the cost per gallon, the blue line is diesel and the red line is CNG, and so really, back in 2020, they were fairly close. Diesel was $2.06 at that point in time. CNG was $1.63. In 2022, diesel got up to $4.76 a gallon. CNG was $1.91 a gallon. And then diesel's come down a little this first quarter, $4.08 for diesel, $2.31 for CNG. And we really didn't use too much diesel in the first quarter. A lot of that's due to the scrap program. So we gave some numbers at the end of the year as far as gallons purchased, and we purchased about 8.5 for last year. This is 2022. We purchased about 8.5% of what we purchased with diesel, and so 91.5% with CNG. So that was an annual basis, and so far this year, our total fuel purchase is only 3.5% in diesel through the first quarter. So that will increase, like I said, primarily due to scrap and those trucks that we use in that program.
Quick question on the diesel that we purchase, are we getting in bulk? Are we paying state tax, federal tax, buying it commercially?
No, we buy it through, we're exempt sales tax. So yeah, we purchase our diesel through Salt Lake County Fleet, that's who we buy our fuels from. So it's on the state, I think it's called they changed the name, it's Wet Card or something like that, WebEx. I'm totally getting the wrong name wrong, but it is through that state purchase.
Thank you.
You bet.
We'll see, hopefully diesel continues to decrease, but that's a question. So, any questions on fuel?
Just to comment how providential I think it is for us to not put all our eggs in one basket. I mean, I think at least right now to have CNG and diesel, maybe electric in the future.
Okay, we're on to the next one. This is maintenance expense, and this is the first quarter. We're actually down just a little. It's less than 1%. Last year, we see there a big increase, and that held for the year too. This is the first quarter, and so we're being consistent in our comparison here. But last year, the first quarter maintenance was up about almost 14%. This year, the first quarter, we're actually down just a little. We're really fairly consistent with what we did last year. And we'll see if that holds and where we're at on that over time. Sometimes after one quarter, I'm not ready to declare cost of decrease or increase. And part of it too is just the timing of repairs and when they happen throughout the year. I think a year gives you a much better view overall than one quarter. So. The next one, this is the refuse tons. We have 4 years there, and this is for the first quarter, and so we can see there at the top, the blue is 2022, and the total tons decreased just a little, they're down about less than 1% so far, and so not really much of a decrease. We'll see where we end up on that. We can make that up pretty quick, you know, this summer. But a couple things on here I wanted to mention. We have stopped delivering to ACE, and so there's no tons in there for 2023.
Do those go to the transfer station, not by the transportation shuttle?
That and the fact that the Salt Lake Valley landfill was very soggy, and so due to the conditions, and wanting to make sure for safety reasons, we would send some of the loads from Magna and Kern on Monday to the transfer station, so that would also contribute to that decrease in 2023. But we're confident we'll be on track by the end of the year that we'll meet that commitment of just over 20,000 tons where we get that, reduced rate of $27 per ton.
That's fine.
You want to say your name?
No, it's on my list, we got it. But that was the decrease for the transfer station, for the landfill there. So we'll see, not a lot of variation really in the tons through the first quarter, pretty similar year to year. On to the next one. This is, recycling tons, and this was one of the amounts I looked at, and I looked at what's on MIS and Renee, I get together, and I'm like, wow, we're off, that was 4,888, and then I look, and that's SIBO recycling, and I have total recycling tons here, and so we're looking at that, because neither one of us likes to not know the differences, or at least understand these numbers, and so this is total recycling tons. I haven't seen this too much, it actually increased very little, but it increased, usually it's been increasing, a slow decline since I've been here, and this is up 2.5%. Last year we were down about 2% through the first quarter. This year we're up about 2%. So again, not a huge fluctuation, but we'll see how that plays out over the coming year.
We'll see if it's a bit soggy in the first quarter.
Yeah.
On the second quarter tonnage.
Okay, the next one. I kind of like this graph just because there's so much variation, although it's a little painful when we have to pay it, but it just shows a lot of variation. This is 4 years of what we're paying our vendors for recycling fees, and you can just see how volatile this is. That's the cost. And so when we started out, the blue line's 2023. We started out in January, $80 a ton, went down to $75 in February, $66 in March. So we're trending the right way. That's the good news, and hopefully that line continues to decrease. And this is for both of our vendors. We have 2 different vendors, and this is the total cost per ton. We take them and add them together and get an average for this, and so this is what we're paying the vendor. But I don't know, Pam, if you have anything to add as far as what you view the market's going to do. Are we going to continue, or?
Yeah, it's predicted and the forecast is that we'll continue to see the improvement in the commodities market. It's just gonna be interesting to see with, you know, recession, where are we gonna be, but we'll keep a close eye on it, but, both vendors we're starting to see that bar go down, that line go down, which we're happy to see in painting. We have shifted some of the, tonnages from Taylorsville and the Magna and Kern that were going to the waste management facility. I've been working with that vendor in particular, and I'll be honest, I've been a little bit frustrated. And so we're shifting some tonnage, still gonna meet the commitment of 300 tons, but I wanna make sure I'm doing due diligence by our, residents and trying to keep costs low. I'm gonna share a whole lot of detail on that, but.
Which markets are improving that their costs have gone down? Is it paper, is it metals, is it?
Thanks for asking. So it's cardboard. You know, if I get this grin on my face when I start talking, I just have
Talk about
nerd out
cardboard.
for just a minute, but cardboard has seen an improvement. There's, the backlog that was started with, you know, the slowdown after printing and making of the paper and cards for the holidays. It slows down generally, and now starting to pick up, and so that backlog is starting to get processed, so the vendors that purchase those products want more of it, which helps us. Metals, they usually hold true with a nice price, on the market that kind of dipped a little bit, which was unusual, but, from what I understand, it's starting to improve again. And paper again is also, improving, and I hope. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but I love to nerd out about stuff like that, so.
And on this too, what we budgeted was $40 a ton, so budget, and also compared to last year, it needs to come down. But I went back and looked, and when we did the budget, it was July and August of last year, and we had that history, and so I'm like, I remember thinking, we had 35 at first, and I talked to Pamela, and we both decided, yeah, let's go up to 40 and get a little more conservative. Well, that's conservative right now. But this kind of stuff, commodities, amazing. I have a background more in commodities on the protein side and the food, but commodities do this. I mean, they're just really volatile. Sometimes you just go, why? And it's hard, but just a volatile industry overall. So, any more questions on that?
Yeah, so in 2021, did we actually make money?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know, make money, we got paid by our vendors.
Right.
We still have internal costs, but we got paid by our vendors, that's right. And it's, I
It used
kind
to
of like,
always be the case.
yeah, I think years ago, they got paid here quite a bit. I mean, I went back and looked at some of the history, and there's actually recycling revenue for several years. So yes, we did get, in 2021, we did get some things.
It was primarily when China stopped taking.
Yeah.
Mail would take stuff,
Mhm.
but it changed stuff.
Correct, like green sword and fence and.
Yeah.
Do we have a local processor for paper or cardboard open yet?
Not yet. It's still in the future, is what I'm hearing, is, I've forgotten the name of that company, but they've purchased land, I believe, in Utah County, and so I believe it's still on track, and that one program we're working right now.
I don't know, I was skeptical when they had their open house 2 years ago, I think it was, and, I've not seen or heard anything since then, so.
2 years.
But it was in Eagle Mountain, I believe, that they were gonna have a big, paper mill.
Mhm. Funding, I believe, is the challenge.
That's what I get. Yeah, I remember looking at some of those original costs, and it was under $1 million.
Yeah. It was
They
huge.
would add finance.
And and also the water that they would use.
The water.
I don't know where they're gonna find that in this environment.
Okay. Move on to the next one. This is cash balances. This includes all our investments too. They're liquid and we have access to them. And so this, you can see the trends as far as when we bill and when we do collections. That's really like February, it goes up some, May, August. Those months are really when our collection months for our quarterly billing for the site load service. And so we see that. It's interesting to note, though, the green for 2022 over there, towards October, September in 2022, we hit 8.4 million, 8.3 million. And that was the lowest point we've hit in the last, I think, 4 years. And that was, we did not buy any trucks last year. Okay, and so that, I was expecting about 3 million in trucks. And so that was part of the reason I was pushing for a fee increase. I was looking at this going, hey, we get down, to 5 million, I think we want to be getting a fee increase. So, not buying trucks, it made our cash look better, which long-term is not really a great thing for us. I mean, we want to replace our trucks and not get too far out on our trucks and the age of them. And so, we had minimal capital expenditures in 2022. I don't know if you remember, we did purchase 2 front-load trucks, and we made the second payment in 2022, and we received those in, but that's all we got. We didn't get our side-load trucks, and we didn't get the F-350 and those type of things, so. Right now, we're at 10 million. We'll go on to the capital expenditures, because if this happens, it will significantly influence our cash balances. The next shows what our capital expenditures budget is for 2023. And so we have ordered 12 side load trucks. They were, I think, right around 415,000. I think we budgeted here about 425. And we left a little in there after last year because the vendor came back last year and said, hey, we're gonna need to charge you more. And we came back to the board, got approval on that. And then we used trucks anyway. But we tried, we swung at it.
What's the status on the truck?
Right now, I feel like talking to Andy and our asset manager, he thinks we're going to get them, but I wouldn't say 100%. I mean, I'd say
We haven't yet,
75 or 70%, so like we're going to get them.
When they show up, they turn on.
Yeah. So, and we do have a couple, one-ton Chevrolet trucks we're hoping to get in the next couple months, and those are still supposed to be coming. Those are for the trailer program. On the used hook lift truck, we did just recently receive that the first of this month. We just paid for it, in April, and that will be on here next month. We didn't pay for that in March. We'll just see where we're at with these trucks, and if we get 12, it'll be great on one side, but we'll use our cash on the others, so.
These are the ones where we have to get that part one place and body the other place.
Right.
Yeah. So that is the truck, not the
No,
body?
no, not yet.
Okay.
The chassis and engine, yeah, 'cause that's part of it. But we're anticipating, we looked at some things in the past few weeks, and we're still anticipating them. But like I said, I wouldn't say it's 100%. I'd say it's above 50.
Well, thank you.
Next up, this is our certification balances. We took off, we used to have 13, 14, 15 on here, those were zero, so I took those off this chart. You can see for 2022, 2.2 million went over to be certified, that was the amount. Right now, about 100,000 due on that amount, so really beneficial for us, helps us as far as collections go. And these amounts are what we usually send the data over to the county in September, and then we get payments, a large payment for these, I think it's in December. But the two amounts in 2016 and 2017, we've been looking at those, it's one person, and we actually asked the county about that because it's getting back there, and they said there was a deferral approved on that. So that's why we're still carrying those amounts from 16 and 17. We'll see what happens here.
What's the time frame on that? Because it feels like I feel like we should just take a formal write off.
Well,
What's the time frame of the county? How long do they allow?
I think 4 years, we can go back and certify. We talked about that last year, 4 years. And so right there, that's why we ask about those and, what's going on. And we'll leave them on there and see towards the end of the year what happens. But we did ask specifically on them, was, hey, what's the status? Why are these?
Someone who's still made arrangements to be there.
Yeah, they're working with them, I think.
Those properties might be some of those that we released from the tax sale, but eventually they could go, if they don't tax them, could go back.
Do you think it's very notable that you say our original amount certified is something we sent in September?
Yes. So you look at that, and as I say, 2.2 million, and we collected all but 100,000.
A lot of, there's what percentage of people are still just leaving it to their.
Well, if we got 2.2, and I think we were around 19 or 20 last year, so 10 or 12% gets certified, yeah. If I'm doing my 2 million, or 2.2 million.
And there is a fee for that, right?
Yes, yeah.
Well, it's good to see that those, so people aren't getting around it.
Yeah. I think some of these, purposes want to deal with it.
Rolling in.
And some of them I don't think probably realize, whatever.
I'm sure there's some.
Yeah.
Okay,
the next one, this was something we were asked to provide last year, really, when we were talking about refunds and customer refunds. And so this is just, the customer refunds for the first quarter of 2023, the checks, and then the express delivery refund. And a lot of times it's billing errors, there has been some cases where we've made errors or had issues too, and we correct those and refund it. And so, this was pretty similar last quarter in 2022, it was right around 9,000 fees, so that was pretty similar. I think we're probably gonna have more, this quarter. Seems like we're starting out with more refunds, but that's kind of where we're at on refunds. We have a process for those, and they're researching it first. Any questions on the financial information?
Questions or comments from the board? Paul, thank you so much. We appreciate you keeping, this is actually a big piece of our mission as a board, is to safeguard the public funds. And you are such a key part of that. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Carrie, getting on this. Okay, let's move on to item 3.3, review and possibly adopt policy revisions on Family and Medical Leave Act. Let's just turn this over to Pam and also to Rachel Anderson, our great legal counsel.
Well, I'll just do an introduction, just to state that, this revision or amendment is before you, not because we haven't been following the state and federal laws related to FMLA. We have been, it's just not been detailed enough in policy for you as a board to say this is what we want as policy. And then for us in our standard operating procedure, it's been very vague, but our practices have been much more detailed as far as following the laws, making sure our employees are taken care of, and that we're doing our due diligence with them and their well-being. So we've had kind of a rise in requests for FMLA, and that's what really brought this to the forefront to say, oh, yeah, working with legal counsel, we really need to get this before the board and get more details for staff so that we can make sure that we're consistent in what we're doing and how we approve FMLA and, doing the safeguards to make sure that we're getting, the medical information back from the employee to say that this is a legitimate request and we need to allow this leave. So I just wanted to do a quick introduction, just to state how vague it was. Right there at the top, the current policy reads as follows, and it's just those two sections right there where it says a 12-month, and that's pretty much all we had. And so I worked with Rachel Anderson, our legal counsel, as well as Rachel Bird, our HR consultant, she's the one, Rachel Bird was the first one to send me the information that I wanted to tailor it down to really fit what would make sense for you as the board to approve, and then the really detailed stuff we're getting to with the SOP. So,
Yeah, you did a great job describing that. I don't know if there's too much to add. It's one of those things where, the law applies to us regardless of whether we put it into policy or not. So it kind of becomes a question of how much detail do you want to go into, in your own personal policy. So what we had before was just very minimal, basically just 2 paragraphs. And, we saw some other examples that were many, many pages long and felt like that was probably too excessive. So this is where we've landed, and it's similar to policies I've used with other clients of mine as well, other districts. So for the most part, I would say that it just tracks the law. There are a few things that we kind of highlight here, such as requiring employees to provide a medical note from a doctor supporting their FMLA request. That's kind of not mandatory under the law, but it's something that the organization has been doing anyway and wants to continue doing. It's good practice to make sure, especially with, like Pam was saying, with claims kind of being on the rise, just making sure that we're doing it for appropriate manner. So that's kind of one key point. The other thing that I think is important is that, despite our desire to prevent unauthorized use of the policy, we also don't want to go too far in the other direction and discriminate against people requesting FMLA or anything like that. And we take very seriously the fact that this is a federal right of our employees, and we just want it to be used appropriately, but at the same time, we will not tolerate any discrimination or retaliation for people
other than that, I think when employees, come forward requesting these benefits, we'll look to the policy, but we'll also look to the law, you know, in every case and make sure that we're complying with the requirements, whether it be continuous FMLA or intermittent FMLA, which is the one type of FMLA that kind of gives employers a little bit more of a headache, but it's, you know, something you just gotta deal with and figure out what's right there. This policy we feel like a good mix between giving a little bit more detail, which you definitely need, and not being too overloaded. When at the end of the day, we're just gonna have to go to the federal law statute anyway.
I did a good to just kind of browse across, you know, if there's some sort of a disclaimer or something that could go right, the saying that, you know, the federal laws are gonna take precedence.
Exactly, yeah,
That's it.
regardless of what we say, yeah.
I mean, they could change it, they could add a
Right,
qualifier or remove one.
exactly, and whatever changes to federal law happen, that will preempt what we, and that's honestly one reason that I tend to not like getting into too much detail in our policies regarding, federal, right? Because when changes are made, it's just, here's another thing we gotta update, so, like I said, that's why I feel like this policy is a good balance, between filling out things that are useful information, but not, you know, dumping the entire law, restating it into our policy.
Plus the law, the federal law is a moving target,
Yeah.
federal law and regulations, so, yeah, this does seem like a really good balance. We clearly needed more than we have.
Yeah.
And, any questions for council or any other comments? Yeah.
Just in reading through, what do you define as a key employee?
So yeah, for us, it would be the full-time merit employees, and really, yeah, all of our staff, are key, but for, I would say, positions like mine, there might be, in looking at this, really, when I had my back surgery in 2020, I should have applied and requested FMLA, just to safeguard my job, and that's the main point of it, is to secure a position within the organization. But I always kept in touch with the board, I really did not take a lot of time off, since we could work from home at that time, but it is mainly, looking at the positions that we have, and if we need to somehow fill that job with other jobs, or other positions within the organization to make up for that, and we have had those situations where we have to kind of fill the gap. I hope that helped, I don't know if I answered that very well. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was just, in the process to be said, is if you're full-time and you're married employee, it's just about what percentage of your workforce, which is a large portion of it, so it was, that's why it was like, you have structures of this, meet these guidelines, as far as positions, titles, those would be considered key employees, but.
Should there be a definition in there of key employees? Because it does say key employees a couple of times and stuff, but there's no definition. There's something that says you have to be here for 12 months, you have to have so many hours, but should you have a definition for key employees?
I think that's covered in the underlying law.
I think so. I'm happy to go back and take a look and work with him, and if we decide that we need to do another amendment, we'll just bring that back.
Yeah.
Next month, if that's okay. Sure. But I think it's okay, but let me, I'll take a little closer look and see if it's like that, to be clarified.
Is that, you know, I mean,
Yeah,
I think that,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a great question.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, so based on that, it sounds like maybe we won't take action on this, but let's have you take a look at that, and we can bring it back, and next month we can adopt it if it's appropriate, so does that sound, any other comments or on that from the board?
And this is something that I think employees could read and reference. Somewhere that, this thing where the federal law's gonna take precedence.
Yeah.
Bring that up front at the top, so it's not like at the end after they figure out what they've got, just so that if for some reason there's a conflict and there's a denial, just bring it.
They're on notice,
We'll add that,
yeah, that's a good,
Right.
too, so.
I think I'm doing 6 pages is like, oh, well, doesn't apply.
Right.
It did last.
Yeah, those are good comments, council. If you could tweak that a little bit, maybe next meeting we can
Yeah, absolutely.
have a draft, so.
Thank you for your, revision on it, I appreciate it.
Okay, so, any need for closed session? I believe so. Any other board business? This is the time set aside for us to bring up any ideas or topics. Any questions or comments from the board? Yes?
I'm gonna go back to my favorite topic, which is the, cleanliness of our blue can content, our recycles. And the notion that if our recycle trucks are contaminated, they get rejected. I'd like to just make sure we continue to think through, how do we, as a community, educate our residents? And I had an incident, a good one, where our police officer said, hey, by the way, I keep opening cans and there's tons of plastic bags. And so I hate the thought of the community trying to do their best to get all the recycled content approved, only to get rejected as a truckload. So I just want to make sure we don't drop that, and if there's a way to audit cans as a community and leave, some type of a, hey, you got rejected today because you had pizza carton, cardboard boxes, or you had too many plastic bags, how can we continue to educate our communities?
Renee has put up on the screen, the webpage, which is very good summary, I think. And, I'm wondering if, I think most of our communities.
Are you circling that?
Use the journal, we each have a version of the journal in our cities. I'm wondering if there could be a little blurb written, I don't know if even a graphic, that each of our cities or our communities could insert into our journals. Like, for example, in the holiday journal, and we have space allocated. Maybe there could be some graphic that we've learned through our data that that's the best way our residents get information, is reading the little newspaper, not email or anything else. And do we have some kind of a little graphic that we could have published in our local journals?
As an insert.
Isn't it? Or not even, or an insert, either an insert or just in the news about our city, just a little quarter page or half page graphic that would include the kind of stuff that you had up at the top, Renee, this kind of thing.
You know what, if you just wanted to do a grocery stack in the circle with a line through it,
Right, yeah, we can definitely.
that'd be really easy for all of us to
Yeah.
post on our social media.
And then each of us could take that to our cities, and then through our municipal or township, avenues, we could have that published.
Yep, absolutely. One note, if you don't mind me, is the reason I had scrolled down here and circled this is that, we found this to be a really good tool for residents to use. I know, I've got it on my work cell phone, it pops up when my delivery or when the pickup date is, but it's an app that can be downloaded specifically for us, to where they can go in and search, different items and see, like, what can fit in their recycling can versus not. And this keyboard is being very stubborn right now. I know normally, oh, duh, I need to go here to recycle right below. So see how it pops up plastic straw, like if I choose that, it says put this item in your garbage can.
Wow.
So it'll tell you real time, and McKenna's really good at updating this with maybe some new items that we found that she's been getting questions like on any of our social media pages. And so as you can see here, even if they have an Android, there's an app, so it's not just Apple-based. So, maybe it's something we can also refer.
Yeah.
We can come up with something for your newsletters to where it's like, there's the plastic bag that seems to be our most frequent, contamination product, circle / on that, and then we can include our QR code that now works, that,
Yeah, if you-
Perfect, that would be great.
It would be great if you could put together some kind of a thing we could use. I echo Robert's concern with this, and, so we run across it in various settings. For example, we had our grandkids over and ordered pizza the other day, and like on Domino's box, it says, please recycle. You open it up, and it is so full of grease inside. And so I think there's a lot of misinformation out there from other sources, so people just naturally are gonna throw that pizza box in the recycle bin, and it's gonna contaminate the whole load. And, anyway, I think this would be, we're taking baby steps, of course, to educate the public, but I think, I don't know if you have any other comments.
Yeah, we did
on how
talk
to do it,
a couple
Robert.
months ago about putting some type of adhesive notification on the lid or something to that effect. If we could just keep that on our agenda for next month.
Yeah, that'd be,
Do we have, this is another data point really too, do we, and I assume obviously grocery tax is a huge chunk, but I'll tell you before I started being on this board, I backed up all my recycling, my normal garbage baskets, to make sure, you know what I mean, so I was contaminated with the clean recycle with the clean garbage bag, right? But, do we know, you know, like, here's our top offense, maybe it's pizza boxes, maybe it's grocery tax, do we know what our top spending items are? And then do we know our top spending areas? Or are there some areas that we could target, you know, this area is having a problem, so we slap a sticker on those cans in that area or something, you know?
So Sione back here, and you're describing everything that we do for best practices, and I don't know if you can pull up one of the newsletters that we send out to communities, but McKenna did send out some newsletters, and Sione, would you mind coming on up here and speak to all the efforts that we do have this 3 strikes rule that you talk about. If there's a resident that is violating the recycling, they do, tag the can, they try to do a personal touch. I'm still in your center, so please.
Yeah, those are some of the things that we do. We try to get out every week and every day and audit the routes before the drivers get there and pick up the can. So we go through 100 to 200 cans every day with the people that we have. And then we compare that to the sample sort that we get at Rocky Mountain Road to see where we at. And now we're communicating with them to see where our data can be a lot closer than what they give us. Because the way they do the sample sort, we'll bring in a load of 4 tons of recycle. They'll pick about 400 pounds of that and sample sort that they sort all the different commodities, and they decide there's a 1% of cans, 4% of plastic, and then everything that's left over is trash. So, and if you think about when we bring up 4, which is roughly about 8,000 pounds, and you take 400 pounds of that, and if you think that 400 pounds will really represent what came into you, and, you know, and it doesn't really give us a good picture of what, because if they pick up something where there's a lot of contamination on that bucket, well, that will give us a higher percentage of contamination for that one. But when we go out to the residents and look at the can, contamination is not really that high. But because of the different process of how they run it, it benefits because of the way the MRF runs. It's hard to shut down everything just to run our load, because the cost will, you know, they're behind on what their goal is for the day. So, and it makes sense for us, because it's financially, it's not easy to shut down a whole MRF just to run what we run. So, and they do the best they can with what makes sense to them. But we're now doing our own sort so we can compare results to see where we are. Because when you look at a load that gets dropped off, it's really good, because we can show them pictures yet?
No, we can
I've just been waiting patiently. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. I was just going to say one of the things that I think is going to be the most effective is that the messaging has to go out on a regular basis over and over and over again. So, and I know that like with social media sites and things like that, the biggest way for that to happen and is for each of us to add it to our site. And it's just the quick things like, did you know you can't recycle plastic straws? They need to go in the garbage. And with the big plastic straw sign, don't pollute our recyclables, you know. And so it's kind of interesting if we keep hitting it social media wise and location wise and everybody puts it out on the social media and gets their friends to, it starts to get out. The secret is everybody's got to put something up on a regular basis, at least once a week, to keep people aware of we're polluting our recycles. And it can become something as we're going into summer, a way to get some social media out, free press, and that by doing press releases on it. You know, we're now that we're hitting summer cleanup, please don't pollute our recyclables. These are the things that can be recycled, and if you're not sure, download our app and find out if it's recyclable. I mean, something that simple is going to be huge. We just had, we've got Earth Day just passed, and I know I saw a lot of things going out on that. But I really think that one of the things that's helpful is if this is really important to this board and to this group, every city should be putting it out. I mean, I'm going to go get the county to do that right now on several of our social media sites this week. It needs to go out at least once a week with one new item. Did you know you can't recycle this? Did you know this needs to go in your garbage? Do you know that if you're going to recycle this, it has to be this? You know, those are some of the things that we just need to help people understand.
What a great comment, Laurie, and it would be nice, in line with that, to have a number of little pieces that we could rotate through that's accurate.
Right.
And, so Renee, maybe we could have a number of little pieces that we could use in our municipalities, so.
So again, I think in front of you, there's the QR code, and that's specific for your newsletter. And if you want to take a look at that, and then just see, McKenna does a monthly newsletter for each of your municipalities and the unincorporated counties. And I believe she's been hopefully copying you all most recently, to make sure that you're aware of what's going out. And if you do have suggestions or changes, we can incorporate that. She also does do the Facebook posts, like recently she did a styrofoam. This does not go in the recycling can. You put it in the garbage, or if you want to take it to these particular locations, you can do that. So I think we are pushing it out there. Definitely we can do more, absolutely. We have to. But there's a QR code for our Recycle Right tool right there that went out with some of the newsletters this month.
But if I'm hearing you, we're actually doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
We're doing a pretty good job with our recycles. And I always think that's why we've seen the numbers slide a little bit, is because people are more aware of it. Maybe not.
Yeah, I think for the most part, the district is doing a pretty good job, yeah. There's still a lot of education to be done, so there's moving all over the place, people move out and people move in with different behaviors, so it's be consistent. And I think we've, we had only a few people that can go out and do it, with the help from you guys too, that will more hands out there or whatever we can do.
If we could get I think I've seen one somewhere, it might have been on the old site, a printable of what's acceptable, and put it on the indoor, and we've been encouraging people to put it on their indoor garbage cans, because that's where a lot of the problems are. Someone ultimately knows what shouldn't go outside, but the kids in the house, or my husband, who insists glass is recyclable.
Right.
It
Definitely
It
is,
is.
exactly.
It's powerful, but.
I love it. And you know what, I know our city would love this too, because we've got several teachers that have asked for one that they could pass out to their kids.
Okay,
Just a
excellent,
printable.
yeah. No, for sure. And, again, McKenna's available for school classes. I know she does a lot of,
She's gone over to California.
yeah, she's gone, she does a lot of virtual training with the kids, and that's an excellent population to hit, right? Because then they can go home and bug you about what does belong, what doesn't belong.
We talked about her a little bit too, we passed along, I think, I did get a copy on her newsletter, and she did a great job. I think you're not.
I would,
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry. I would love to see if we could get a printable vinyl sticker where it can be washed and things like that and it doesn't fall apart, that we could put inside on cans and things like that. And then target one area that we know is pretty bad and get them out and see what kind of a difference, and just do a beta test to see what kind of difference something like that would make.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I actually wonder if this ought to be maybe, in the next month or two, put this on our agenda, and maybe come up with other ideas from staff, or from Renee, with individual pieces. Thank you so much, Sione, we appreciate it. And Robert, thanks so much for raising this. That's a great topic.
Great idea.
Really great idea. Other items? Yes?
I'm just curious, we have a council person that, has brought up the, ban on plastic grocery bags again. And I wondered if at a future, meeting, we could get some feedback from each of the agencies on how your councils feel about something like that. Because obviously, if there's no support for it, it's gonna die. But if there's some support, then maybe it's something that could be brought up and, pursued on some level again. I'm just really curious because there's a whole range of opinions on that. Is it feasible? How much good does it do? Is it politically feasible, with businesses and so forth? So if that's possible, Pam, we could agenda that maybe in the future and just get some feedback from folks. I would appreciate it.
That'd be great.
And I believe you're referring to like a plastic bag ban?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is,
Grocery bag.
yes, that's,
Plastic.
yeah, just a little, single-use plastic, grocery bag.
Yeah, and it might be nice to know which municipalities have banned.
I think there's only two. I think it's Park City and Moab.
Yeah,
And both of those, and this is fine, to make sense in Salt Lake County, really kind of needs to be Sumner County.
Right.
exactly.
I mean, I shop in Copland Heights, but I also stop at Holiday regularly.
Sure.
Sometimes
Like I say, it's a complicated issue, so,
Yeah, anyway, that'd be a good part of our discussion, so.
thank you.
I think it's an interest point. I'm not sure it's for a board, but I love to have
Well,
that
I
discussion.
would just like the feedback.
Yeah, I would
So-
love to have that discussion, just as our experience with our own city.
Exactly.
But as far as the board, I'm not sure that.
No, sure, I basically want to go back to this individual on my council and say that there may be some support, if you really work at it, or it's a dead issue, don't even think about it because it's not even gonna get started. I would just like some feedback.
And it would be a good education point. I agree with Anna that you can't really do anything as a board,
Right.
per se, but for educating ourselves and to take back to our individual, commissions.
Thank you.
Council, that'd be important, so. Good, any other comments on this or other topics from the board? Okay, well, it looks like, for next meeting, we're gonna have tentatively, independent financial audit report from, Squire and Company, and of course, Pam's general manager report, so, I think that's it for our agenda. I'll take unless there's anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion and a second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Great Yeah.
Yeah.
Started.